podcast.
All right, you ready, man?
Yep.
3, 2. What's going on, Fight Bros podcast listeners? Coming at you today with Fight Bros MMA show number 44. Got my buddy Ethan Barker on today. I'm glad to have him back on. We had a mix-up. We had a really good podcast, about a month ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we tried a new format of recording it. Didn't work out. But so we did like an hour-long podcast with no playable audio. So I'm glad to have him back on. But let's get right into it, man. Last night we had some good celebrity boxing fights. Not really celebrity, but I guess we could put it in that genre now, I guess, even though it's like retired boxers. But if you didn't know, last night you had Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort and Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz on Thriller. They had Donald Trump commentating. It was a spectacle.
Did you watch it?
No, I wasn't paying for that. But yeah, so let's get started with, we'll go main event and kind of work our way down. Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort ended up TKOing due to ref stoppage. We'll say that because that's kind of how it did go. Ref stoppage over 58-year-old Evander Holyfield. This ended up counting as a professional boxing bout as well. It didn't end up being an exhibition. So this counts for Vitor Belfort's record, and it also counts as a loss on Holyfield's record as well. So there was kind of a lot of questions looming leading up into this. People were like, why is the Florida Athletic State Commission allowing Evander Holyfield to get back in the ring? You know, he's 58. I think when Thriller did those open workouts, people were just killing that the pad workout that he did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I've been kind of checked out on it, to be honest.
I mean,
especially the celebrity boxing stuff, I've kind of ignored.
Yeah, I didn't really think too much about the pad workout. I mean, it was slow, but I mean, where I've been doing boxing, there's differences when you're like drilling, and then when you see people going like real fast on the mitts. Sometimes it's not drilling that's what it's meant to be. Sometimes the drilling's meant to be slower. So I didn't really think much of that, but having not competed since 2011, that was the last time Evander Holyfield got in the ring was 2011, and he got a TKO victory over some guy I've never heard of, but so that was the last time. Vitor Belfort was supposed to be fighting Oscar De La Hoya on this card, but Oscar De La Hoya unfortunately ended up getting COVID. Oscar De La Hoya was still giving up a lot of weight, so big difference when Vitor Belfort ended up facing a 240-pound Evander Holyfield when he weighed in at like 205 or something.
Okay. Oh, really?
So, Vitor looked good. I liked his output.
Is he a lot faster than
I thought he was. Yeah. He was a whole lot faster. Yeah. I really liked his volume. Evander, he ended up arguing the stoppage. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
He argued the stoppage, and then afterwards in the post-fight, he ended up saying that he felt it was an early stoppage. He was never hurt. So he did get knocked down once. I sent you the videos. He did he got dropped with the uppercut first, and then he got back up. He got right back up. I mean, he just grabbed onto the ring and got right back up. He wasn't really hurt, but then he just took a lot of damage. And I mean, that's the ref's job.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things we talked about on the other podcast that didn't work. Because we talked about Conor and how he acted in the ring after. And when those guys are in battle, the adrenaline rolling, like you see it in the UFC all the time, fighters protesting stoppages. And I don't think they fully realize what they're in just because like the adrenaline and getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
So, I never really try to hold that against him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a problem with it. I mean, with a 58-year-old Evander Holyfield fighting, I mean, I guess the problem would be an athletic commission stating him in. Because the way I think about it, I mean, if that's what you truly love and that's all you know, maybe still, spar, do some light sparring and stuff in terms of that. But, I would say the problem with this is that athletic commission actually reinstating him to do it on pay-per-view. That would be up to them. But, thankfully he didn't get hurt or anything like that. So, but Vitor Belfort got the victory. This was interesting in his post-fight interview in the ring. I don't know who the two guys were that interviewed him, but they came in and one of the guys said, us and Thriller are going to put up $20 million for you, and Jake Paul, the winner, gets $20 million.
For Belfort?
Yeah, Vitor Belfort.
Isn't he like 30 pounds heavier than Jake Paul or something?
Yeah, but I mean, Jake Paul's not really.
Yeah.
Well, Jake Paul's been taking lighter opponents, so every opponent he's faced so far has been lighter than him.
Yeah, because Logan's the big one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they turned around a few seconds later, bumped it up to $30 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, $30 million to fight Jake Paul. They pretty much Thriller made that offer for Jake Paul and Vitor Belfort on pay-per-view, saying that the winner of them, they will put up $30 million to get that. And I mean, I think
they expect to make that much money that they can pay that.
Yeah. So that's the thing, man. I know Jake Paul he did an interview talking about how he wanted to get away from Thriller. Now I watched the Mike Tyson Roy Jones Jr. Me watching tons of UFC fights. It's entertaining. You got Snoop Dogg commentating, and it's funny to people who don't respect the sport.
Yeah.
But I just found it was too much.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way it was. You had rappers doing performances, in between each fight, and it was 40 minutes or a 30-minute performance in between each fight, and it was come on now. Now I like rap, but
it's more of a show than it is a sporting event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the concert mixing in with the UFC or MMA, boxing, it's just too much. Maybe do something like a nice celebrity singing the national anthem or something like that. That's fine, but that's what I found. And then, of course, Snoop Dogg commentating. It was just it was just more of entertainment. And I mean, this one they brought in Donald Trump to commentate, so they're really just looking to make this as entertaining and possible to get as many casuals as they can.
They're trending towards WWE away from fighting to WWE.
Because what was funny is I seen a couple of clips. Donald Trump he did a clip talking about how he had been a big fan of these legends forever, and then he said something like, "I can't wait to watch Anderson Silva."
Oh, really?
And I said, "Oh no."
Well, he's never been good at speaking, so that might have just been a mistake.
And yeah, I just couldn't. I was like, man, we really got this man really. I don't know if he was the main commentator or not. I know Masvidal was commentating beside him, and then his son as well. That's the thing. I'm just so used to people Ariel Helwani, Joe Rogan, DC, all these
pros.
People. They do their research. They would never mispronounce somebody's name like that, or But I mean, like I said, this is two different events.
Yeah.
You're getting more of a spectacle here. So let's get into that co-main event. This was really exciting because Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz. Anderson Silva knocks him out cold. In the first round.
I did see this clip. And Anderson, I think Anderson's found something here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming they don't drug test.
Yeah, I seen a tweet yesterday from Devin Haney. Do you know who he is?
No.
Well, he's in Ryan Garcia's weight class. I'm sure you know who that is.
Yeah.
They're some of the top guys. He's one of the big names in boxing right now, Devin Haney. And he said that he thinks Anderson should have gotten to boxing a long time ago as good as he is now. He said, I think Anderson missed his calling.
He might have.
Yeah, which I don't necessarily think that because the history he made in the UFC.
Yeah, his 2 boxing matches have been pretty unreal.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I guess that's the good thing.
Now, Tito.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Kind of breaking it down, Tito got Anderson Silva. I'll word it like this: backed into a corner, but I don't think Anderson ever felt like he was backed into a corner. But Tito had him up against the rope, and Tito was trying to land some shots, but Anderson was doing like some Tyson Fury Matrix kind of stuff.
Hook
yeah, hit him with a right hook, and then followed it up with 2 more left hooks, and one of those 2 left hooks put him to sleep. And that was the first time ever that Tito Ortiz had been knocked unconscious.
So Tito was from that kind of beginning era of the UFC, kind of when they hit the mainstream and Spike. And like we have these legends from there, the Titos, the Chucks, those guys. And we remember them for being awesome because it was, but when it actually comes they wouldn't be able to hang in today's UFC.
Yeah.
The skill is so much higher. So when you put him in there with maybe the most skilled guy of all time, Anderson Silva, it's not going to go well for him, especially at his age. And he's doing politics in California and stuff, and he's not 100% in the fighting. And Anderson just already was a better fighter.
Yeah, Anderson's really doing something special, man. Yeah. I think he's 40 or 44 or something like that. He's somewhere in there, but I really do think he's found his next venue for now.
Yeah, so is that Triller? Is that he's in that promotion?
No, he's
or is it
he's more of an independent guy.
Free agent kind of guy.
Yeah, because he fought Cesar Chavez Jr. On that card. I didn't know a lot about Cesar Chavez Jr. I knew a lot about his dad, but supposedly Cesar Chavez Jr. was really good. He's still a really good boxer. So that was big. Anderson beating him. I say, I don't know. There's a lot of options next for who could be next for Jake Paul, but Anderson's got to be in the conversation now.
Anderson, I keep saying this every time he fights somebody, but Anderson and Tyron, whatever, but Anderson will kill him.
Well, yeah, I think that's what what the people want to see. They want to see somebody.
That's what people want to see, but I don't think Jake Paul and whoever the promotion is they're going to try and keep that going as long as.
Well, yeah. So Jake Paul's with Showtime now. I'm pretty sure he signed an exclusive deal with Showtime. So I believe Tyron Woodley might have just signed a 1-fight deal with Showtime. Yeah. So I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if let's say Tyron doesn't get the rematch. I don't think he will get any more fights with Showtime. So we'll kind of get into this next, man. Since we're talking about what could be next for Anderson, what could be next for Jake. So I never got to do a podcast on the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight. So we'll kind of talk about that here. Jake Paul ended up defeating Tyron Woodley by a split decision. I ended up getting that fight. I don't know. It was tough. I'm a Woodley fan, so I'm gonna watch. People was like, "Why are you getting that pay-per-view?" I was like, "I'm a Woodley fan, man. He's got a little Woodley's got some place in my heart,
guy."
And so I want to watch him regardless of what he's doing. And I got excited. I think it was in that 4th round. Tyron was kind of doing what he always does, and I think this is what he always did, even when we were all over him for being so powerful and knocking people out. I think he's always just been like a counterpuncher, just kind of a cautious counterpuncher. But people would come recklessly at him, and he would just, I guess, that big UFC run he had, that big title run and the title defenses, I guess it was just, that style was working.
And when you are champion, they kind of have to come to you, forcing their hand, so it works better.
Yeah, so in that 4th round, I remember jumping up. I was like, Woodley's going to finish him. He just knocked him against the ropes. The ropes held up Jake Paul, and which I can't believe that didn't count as a knockdown. What the heck? Yeah.
They're going to keep their...
But regardless if it did, count as a knockdown, I think Jake still would have won. I don't know how boxing scored, but I know how UFC scored it. It's more of volume, like you land in volume of punches, regardless of damage. The volume that you're landing, like obviously Woodley caused the most damage for that moment, but Jake Paul did provide more volume. And in a game of points, Jake Paul won. So I guess. And I don't, with it being a split decision, I don't really know how that goes. I know Clarissa Shields, a very well-respected women's boxing champion and now crossing over into MMA, she claimed that Tyron Woodley won.
Yeah, I saw there's a few fighters that...
Yeah,
who knows?
I don't know. Watching it and just knowing how it's scored based on volume and punches, regardless of damage, I don't know. I feel like Jake Paul won the points battle. So, getting into this next, after the fight, it was a little, kind of gotten WWE-ish in the octagon, as you put it, or in the ring. So afterwards, Tyron stays around to talk, and I was like, what is he going to say? I wasn't really knowing what to expect, and then he comes out and he's like, talking about how he wants the immediate rematch, and I was sitting there in my head thinking, man, I don't think this really makes any sense because Jake Paul has been going up the ladder, and it wasn't like there was any controversy or anything to deserve a rematch, as much as I hate it because as big as a Woodley fan I am. But, and then Jake's like, well, if you get the tattoo, we will do the rematch. And then Woodley said he would.
But wasn't the tattoo artist supposed to be there?
Yeah, so that was the thing. The tattoo artist, him and Woodley shook on it. They shook on who was supposed to be getting the tattoo way before the fight. So it was not a contract agreement, but a handshake agreement. Yeah. That doesn't mean anything. Right. But, so the tattoo artist flew out, was at the fight, was wearing a shirt that she was giving the tattoo to the loser. That's what she had on her shirt. And she was supposed to do it in the locker room. Now, I do know but this is what I said from the beginning, if Jake Paul would have lost, he would have got all kinds of cameras and got that in his locker room because that's what he does for a living. He wants to get clickbaits and stuff. Yeah. That video of him getting that tattoo that says, I love Tyron Woodley, would have got millions of views and just made him even more money. So he wouldn't have cared. It would have just been a big joke to him. Woodley agreed to get the tattoo in the middle of the middle of the ring. Jake Paul said, if you get the tattoo, we'll see about a rematch. Because Jake Paul, he told him, he said, I know you want another payday. And, I don't know if that was it. I just would have liked to see Woodley throw a little bit more, man. The way I thought about it is I'm like, he's so used to getting hit with 4-ounce gloves. I just feel like, okay, I know you have to take, you leave yourself vulnerable when you're attacking, but I just felt like, okay, he's like, this, we'll call Jake Paul a good amateur fighter at this point, I just felt like, Woodley wouldn't mind leaving himself vulnerable to an amateur fighter with, getting hit with 16-ounce gloves. I just felt like he would have opened himself up a little bit, because that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing, like last night with Vitor Belfort, seeing him, man, lots of volume. He wasn't, holding back, trying to counterpunch.
I guess it's just hard subconsciously to deal with that. I don't know. I think Jake Paul can be considered a pro boxer at this point.
Yeah, I mean he's good at this point. You have to.
He's definitely a lot better than anyone ever thought.
Yeah, I mean, watching the professional boxers on this card, I believe there was a guy named Montana Love, and I don't remember the other guy's name. And then you watch other fights. So you watch Tommy Fury versus the MMA guy. Tommy Fury looked like a boxer. The MMA guy didn't. So, but then you watch Montana Love versus I don't remember the guy. That was legit boxing. Everything looks so fluent from both guys.
It's just
and
different.
Then you watch Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley. Tyron, you look totally different than what, we're used to seeing him in the octagon. It was just, you can see the actual boxers who have been doing it forever. You can see how they look and how fluent it looks based on some of these guys who are getting into it. But as I will say, Anderson looks fluent. He looks like a legit boxer. So let's get down to it. You know, who's next for Jake Paul? Do you believe he's moved on from that Tyron Woodley rematch? Because Tyron didn't get the tattoo. Tyron was waiting for a contract to be sent, which I agree with that. You don't want to get a tattoo and then somebody not give you a rematch, as embarrassing of a tattoo as that would be.
Yeah.
So do you believe that he's moved on? And if he's moved on, who do you think's next? Is it Tommy Fury? Is it Anderson Silva? Is it Vitor Belfort at this point? You know,
I think he'll move on.
Yeah.
I don't think people will pay again to watch him fight Tyron.
No.
I don't know who's next. I don't think he can do Anderson next.
So we will say I believe the pay-per-view with Tyron.
It did well.
Right? I think it did
Yeah.
better than it might have been did better than Floyd Logan.
Oh, yeah.
I know they said, I remember somebody, one of them saying that it was I think Tyron said this, that when the numbers came in, it was the 5th highest. I don't know what he meant. I don't think he meant of all time.
Of boxing, of fighting,
I wish I could remember what he said. I don't know if it was the 5th highest pay-per-view of this year.
Yeah.
You know.
Didn't really say.
But, both guys made off pretty good. Tyron made off pretty good.
Yeah.
After pay-per-view buys, I think they were saying he made beyond like $10 million.
Good.
So yeah, which I mean he deserves that, man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But who do you think's next for Jake Paul?
Not Anderson. Not sure. You know, there's so many. He has options.
That's the thing,
That's
man.
what Jake Paul has been so successful. He kind of can pick.
See, now if you fight with Jake Paul, it has to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
If you fight an Anderson, you're not gonna get that build up that you want. You got.
Yeah, that's not a good point.
I mean, fighting Tyron, you could tell from the UFC. Tyron does a little smack talk, you know, and we seen that, you know, the big spectacle that was made with Tyron Woodley's mom and Jake Paul's team before that. You know, that's what Jake Paul and them want, because that's going to get them more pay-per-views at the end of the day. You know,
that had to be manufactured, right? That wasn't real.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
because no one's holding back Tyron Woodley if that happens for real.
Yeah, I'm getting confused with the kayfabe and stuff outside of WWE now.
No, I think if that was real, Woodley would have hurt somebody.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been able to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or his boys, you know. They would have, it'd have been on site.
Yeah, I think at an entertainment standpoint, you know, KSI, you know, have you ever heard of him, the big YouTuber?
Yeah.
I think him versus Jake Paul would do big numbers, but I think at this point, Jake Paul has got, I don't foresee how KSI has gotten as good as Jake Paul has right now with experience.
Yeah.
You know, KSI and Logan, when they did those boxing matches against each other, I felt like it just came down to not boxing skill or anything with them two. It just came down to like who was the better athlete, who had more gas in the tank. I think that's really what it was with them. So, you know, I would like to see, you know, Jake Paul versus Anderson. That'd be fun. Logan versus Anderson. You know, Anderson deserves some good paydays, man. So I do see Anderson getting one of those two next, Logan or Jake. You know, the Tyron rematch. I don't know. I don't really want to pay. I don't know. Like I said, I was expecting Tyron to come out like he did against Vicente Luque. He came out. He wasn't worried about getting hit. He rocked Luque. Unfortunately, you know, when you're putting out like that, you leave yourself open. He got hit and then got submitted.
Yeah.
So I was kind of expecting that, because I'm like, you don't have to worry about getting submitted by Jake Paul. I don't think you have to worry about him hitting you like so hard either. But you know, yeah. So let's go ahead and move on. Last weekend, man, big win for Derek Bronson on UFC. He was facing Darren Till.
Yeah.
And, you know, Darren Till, this was his, third fight at middleweight?
I think so.
Yeah, he's been in middleweight for a little bit. He's been facing some injuries. But, yeah, big win for Derek Bronson, man. Would he end up getting this done in the third round?
It might have been second.
It might have been second.
It was the time, it was dominant.
Yeah.
Darren never had anything going. It was dominant.
Yeah, so Derek Brunson ended up winning by submission. I remember sitting there watching this, and in the first round, I was like, I was rooting for Derek Bronson. I put money on him. I haven't won any money in a while, and Derek Bronson won me some money. I did a two-way parlay with him and Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did well.
Yeah. So, that first round early on, Darren Till showed he's the superior striker, and Derek Bronson, I think everybody realized that watching that fight. You got to get this to the feet, man, or you got to get this to the ground. Because what I was thinking when I placed the bet is I was like, you know what, Tyron Woodley kind of had easy time taking him to the ground. I was like, and Derek Brunson's so much more bigger, and I would say Derek Brunson, focuses a lot more on wrestling than Woodley. So I'm sitting here doing my MMA math, and I just felt like Derek Brunson was going to keep the fight on the ground. And that's essentially what ended up happening. It worked in his way. He was dominant at that. I mean, I didn't know he was that good. He had that good ground game once he was on the ground.
Yeah, to be honest, I had kind of written off Derek Brunson the last time I'd watched him fight was when he lost to Israel.
Yeah, because I felt like when he fought Israel, I felt like, I'm not saying he's a gatekeeper, in my opinion, but I felt like the way UFC was doing him, he was being, advertised as a gatekeeper, and I just felt like that was the wrong time. But I feel like he's really worked on his game, man, and I liked what we saw there. I don't know if you've seen the video that kind of went viral of Adesanya. He was sitting there, somebody had a camera on him while he was watching the fight, and literally he was emotionless.
Oh yeah, he's not.
And then Derek Bronson, cut his promo, which I love Derek Bronson's promo. I think he was like, Israel Adesanya, boy, I'm coming for you, boy. Yeah, I liked that, man. I like that's something. That's why I'm a big UFC fan. Is I like when people really get into their promos, because where I got that WWE background. But.
Yeah. No, I was very impressed with Brunson. Then as soon as they got on the ground and you saw how dominant he was on the ground, that fight was over.
Yeah. So I know Cannonier and Brunson kind of went back and forth on Twitter. I believe Israel Adesanya's already got a title fight booked against Robert Whittaker.
Yeah,
that's what's happening next. But don't both of them live in Australia?
I'm not sure.
And there's some type of lockdown or something. I'm not too into it, but
so Israel is New Zealand, right? And then Whittaker's Australia.
So both guys are in countries where it's kind of hard.
Super lockdown, yeah.
It's kind of hard to get them over here to fight at the moment because of their country's COVID lockdowns. So yeah, but that's going to be the next fight, is that Robert Whittaker 2 fight, which Robert Whittaker deserves. Derek Brunson, like I said, I would like to see him get a second chance. He's really been on a run and really reinvented himself. I wouldn't mind seeing Derek Brunson versus Cannonier just to really solidify, this is who's next. Yeah. We're not going to sit here and pick and choose, this is who's next. Because Cannonier, he didn't have such a good fight against Robert Whittaker.
He lost, because I was looking at this morning. He lost to Whittaker, and then he beat Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
Which Gastelum's kind of fallen off.
And Gastelum's kind of, in the top 10, but, can't get past the top 5.
Cannonier has an argument for a title shot, but he needs some more, I think.
Yeah, which is weird because Gastelum, man, gave Adesanya the best fight he's ever had.
He hasn't been good at all since, has he?
Yeah, and so how do you think Derek Bronson would fare in another title shot? Israel is such a superior striker. I mean, we seen what happened when Darren Till was striking with him.
Yeah.
My worry would be if you can't get those takedowns.
Which I don't think, because Vitor couldn't. Right?
Yeah, that's my worry with this fight is
Israel's takedown defense is going to be way better than Till's, and apparently Till's fighting with a torn ACL.
Yeah, because really the only person to take Israel down and do damage is Jan Blachowicz, which was probably 230 pounds on fighting.
For sure, and just a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also Vitor and Costa are already scheduled to fight. That's going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to that one. It's
either one of those two. It's either Brunson or Cannonier waits for a title shot, or they fight each other.
Yeah, really I'd like to see them fight each other because we keep
Might
on.
As well.
Yeah, I would like to see that because I know UFC's having some trouble with some matchups. It kind of seems like because of COVID, fighters getting COVID, fighters locked down in other countries and stuff like that. It kind of seems like fighters are fighting. Some of the fighters are fighting a little bit more frequently now. So I would like to see that next. Derek Brunson versus Cannonier, little number one contender fight. Speaking of WWE earlier, and I know this is a little off topic of the fight. Being a New York Knicks fan, you was watching WWE the other night.
I watched SummerSlam.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw a clip of Brock Lesnar walking out on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I hate his hair.
WWE the other night was at MSG.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know the wrestler Sami Zayn. Well, he was wearing a Kevin Knox New York Jinx jersey because it's at MSG. I saw he was calling out somebody to come into the ring. And I was like, who could this be? You know who he calls out to the ring in Madison Square Garden? This is where Vince McMahon, he knows what he's doing.
It must have been an enemy.
Trae Young. They got Trae Young to come on WWE. And
they booed him.
Yeah, and come in MSG. This man disrespected MSG. He's not welcome in New York. And they have the biggest villain of New York come down into the ring. Yeah. I know that's kind of off topic for MMA,
I need to see that.
That's awesome. You need to watch it.
I watched SummerSlam, and that's the first time I've ever watched it, and I did not hate it.
Yeah, I like WWE, man, when and it's been good for the competition they've been getting from AEW. We would have never got Trae Young and stuff. AEW has been giving them a ton of competition.
Yeah.
So that's why WWE has been so good lately is because the competition from AEW. It's actually good for WWE.
I think my problem was I would try and watch Monday night.
And it's 3 hours long.
And it's just the product's not as good.
Yeah.
But then you'd see Roman Reigns and John Cena, and they're the best.
Yeah.
And it's actually good. It's more believable.
Dude, seeing it in person, when me and Mary got to go to Raw in Greensboro a couple years ago, and we didn't know Brock Lesnar was going to be there. Yeah. I mean, the arena, I've never been a part of something like that. When Brock Lesnar's music hit, it was awesome. And she even, she doesn't like watching it on TV. She doesn't like the shows that they have in Roanoke because those are called house shows. So it's not as good promos and entertainment as on TV, but that was actual Monday Night Raw, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I wanted to kind of do a little game here because we haven't been having a lot of the champions defend their belt here lately. Some champions are on hold and stuff. So I wanted, while I had Ethan on today, I kind of wanted me and him to play a little game. Out of all the champions at each weight class, which one or ones of these champions do you think will not be champion a year from today? Yeah. Looking at all these weight classes, we'll kind of decipher each weight class, but I want you to kind of pick maybe one or two, you feel pretty high percentage that they won't be champion a year from now. And I got the other weight classes on the back here too.
Oh, I didn't. I missed that. Yeah, well, I think the easy one first is bantamweight with Aljo.
Yep. That was going to be my first choice.
Peter Yan's going to wreck him. And with the women, I mean, everybody's so dominant. The only one that's not dominant is Rose. And I think a lot of Whaley, that's her name, right? Yeah, she's a killer. I kind of hope that ends up being a trilogy because that's a fun fight. You know what? I'm gonna take a. You should ask me who I think will still be champion.
Well, that's what
I feel like that's a smaller number than who will not.
That's what I was going to get into next. So we'll kind of go ahead. I'll go ahead and tell you mine. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you. That bantamweight, Aljamain Sterling, it's tough. He got the title through Peter Yan hitting him with that illegal shot. Mm-hmm. disqualified.
Peter Yan was beating the brakes off him.
Yeah, Peter Yan was having...
Peter.
Yeah. Either way, he was having a pretty dominant victory upcoming until that moment. You know, what kind of, made that situation shaky was when, Aljo... he threw the title down in the octagon. He said he didn't want it, and then afterwards, he was posing with his family members and stuff. And that didn't look good.
He was still losing.
Yeah, that wasn't a good look. So I definitely think this is number one. That is going to be a tough fight. I'd like to see it though, because Aljo, up until that moment, he was on a good run. Aljo's pretty dominant at that bantamweight class. So I'm ready to see this fight coming up. But Peter Yan had his way in that first one up until that disqualification. To kind of pick another one, I'm not so sure that, and I'll kind of say two, this lightweight title with Oliveira. I feel like this lightweight weight class is so tight. I mean, we don't have Khabib in there anymore to literally say, okay, this guy's your dominant champion. Literally nobody can beat him. I just feel like this is going to be tough. Like,
that's a deep, good guys.
Guys that could be the champion right now. I feel like, Dustin, that would be a tough fight for Oliveira. The rematch with Chandler is a tough match. I mean, Chandler had him finished. Mm-hmm. And so, Gaethje, that's a tough one. Throw Dariush in there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dariush, Oliveira.
Chandler-Gaethje fight. Yeah. Chandler might not even get back to the title shot.
Yeah.
That's a tall task to even get back to.
Yeah, this is literally like a killer's row here. Yeah. This top five. I don't know if Tony Ferguson's still 5 or not, but no, I don't think he is. So, we'll say this top 5.
Conor might still be.
Yeah. So this top 5 of the lightweight division, I don't know. I wouldn't really lean towards Conor in a fight with Oliveira.
I'm not leaning Conor.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But this lightweight division, man, it's so unpredictable. I'm so hyped to see how this plays out. I'm hoping that the MSG fight between Gaethje and I'm hoping all the fights work out, because I know
that's gonna be a barn.
A thing with MSG right now is a lot of fighters on that card. Mm-hmm. They're not going to get their vaccination, and MSG's requiring you to have it. So that card's kind of up in the air. I'm hoping the card's not up in the air. I'm hoping that if that's the case, then some of the fighters aren't allowed to fight on that because of those reasons. I hope they can move the card to somewhere else.
Well, you would think if World Championship on the line, hey, you have to get it.
Yeah, because Colby Covington versus Usman is the top fight, and
Colby will get it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that card still happens regardless of the location. If you got to move a location to accommodate,
With how difficult Colby has been with the UFC in the past, he's already lost this fight once. If that gets canceled because he won't get the vaccine, they might just cut him.
Yeah,
even though he's the only one who's ever been able to give Usman.
That's why I'm so excited for this whole card in general. And then it's kind of looming that Nate Diaz might be on the card against Vicente Luque. So I mean that card, Nate Diaz versus Vicente Luque might be the first or second fight on that card.
Is that Nick and Lawler too on there?
That's Nick versus Lawler is not next weekend, the 18th, but it's the following on the 25th. So we're definitely gonna watch that one, man.
I think I'm just gonna be getting back from Florida.
Oh, okay.
So I might not be there.
Okay. But and then the last kind of one is the. No, I'm not even gonna say that. I was kind of gonna mention Brandon Moreno, but there's not a clear contender, so I do see him being a champion.
I think there are fewer on this list that will still be champion versus who is still champion. Okay,
so now let's go. Let's start with, like you said, who will still be champion a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. Who do you see that they're so dominant you don't see them losing anytime soon? And I mean, for our champions, we maybe get to see them fight twice a year max. I mean, we really don't have champions competing.
So Francis, Israel.
So you think Francis and Gain? You really think?
I think Francis.
Okay.
Nunes, of course.
Yeah.
If the only way she won't be is if she retires.
Yeah, I think she's number one.
Shevchenko.
She's number one on the list of being champion the longest, the highest percentage. If I had to bet a bunch of money, I'd bet it towards her.
And if Rose can get through the next one, then Rose. But
yeah.
that's such a... And I know she won it dominantly, but that kick's not going to be there again.
Yeah.
Even though she did that with Joanna, she beat her with a knockout and then turned around and beat her on decision. So she could do it.
Yeah.
Woodley's just such a killer.
Yeah.
No, well, and then if there was one more I had to add, it'd be light heavyweight. I just don't know the competition level there, but Jan is. Jan's the real deal. Yeah. And Usman, like that fight with Colby is so razor thin. I think that becomes a trilogy.
I think he's gotten better though. I don't see how Colby. I mean, he could have now.
But there's a time frame on Usman. Like his knees are already bad and he can't run. So there is a time frame here.
Because I know that was a big thing with Dominic Cruz. Yeah. Is he said that his knees were bad. He had to start biking for all of his cardio and stuff. And then when he started coming out and saying stuff like that, he lost to Garbrandt. And then, he's still fighting now. But
Colby's just been fresh. He hasn't fought.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Because Usman's been pretty active this year, man. I like it.
And dominant.
Yeah.
But if, I think Colby gives him trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Then in Oliveira, we talked about that. That's so deep. Volkanovski, I mean, you still have Holloway there. That's also a deep competitive division with a lot of up-and-comers. Aljo, he's going to lose his next fight. And then the women, like Nunes, Shevchenko are dominant. And then Rose, she's elite. So is Weili, so is Joanna. So who knows?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Flyweight, Shevchenko, don't see her losing anytime soon.
And then Moreno, I don't know anyone else in that division.
Yeah, that
division could get canceled and shut down for.
Man, I did an update to UFC 4 the other day, and that division has like 6 fighters that you can use. It's tough. But I agree with you. Israel Adesanya, he has been so dominant. I don't see Robert Whittaker beating him. It's tough for Derek Brunson. Gonna be tough for Cannonier. I don't see the Israel Adesanya losing anytime soon. The only time you're gonna see him lose is if they do another super fight.
He goes up. Or he's so good.
And welterweight, I don't see Usman losing.
Yeah. That might be
within a year.
That might be my hot take.
Somebody might catch up with him, in 2 years or something. But for the next year from today, I don't see him.
I think him and Colby are like.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is pretty far down.
That's the cool thing about Usman, man, is how much he can wrestle. Him and Colby are going to stand there and strike in this next fight. They're going to keep it stand up just like they did last time.
That was one of the best fights of all time.
And I think we're going to see Usman has gotten really fond of his hands here lately.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be that's going to be a fun fight. You don't want to miss that. I think that's in November. No, it's November.
That's the big fight, right? That's when Chandler's on the undercard.
Yeah, it's November. No, that's December. Yeah.
That's everybody.
Yeah. So that's going to be the card to watch before the end of the year.
Yeah. So really, like 4 out of. There's 4 in the bag, so 4 out of 11 are still going to be the same champion.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, guys, as you can see, this, kind of breaking down the champions, got some fun fights coming up with some of these champions, and, some of them we just don't see them losing anytime soon. But let's get into this last little bit here. Next week's UFC, we kind of want to give predictions for that. We got Anthony Smith versus up-and-coming Ryan Spann. That's going to be the main event there. We'll kind of start. We're just going to break down like the 3 main fights, but also want to highlight on the prelims here. We have
Tony Gravely.
Yeah, Tony Gravely. I forgot his name there for a minute.
Yeah.
We have Tony Gravely, and we've talked about him a lot on the podcast. He is local of Martinsville. I think he trained at like Tech MMA and Fitness, so he's very known around the area.
He will do camps, or not camps, but he will train with Virginia Tech's wrestling program, which is one of the fastest growing. It's They also have it's called the Southeast Regional Training Center there for the wrestling, and that is essentially it's like the region's Olympic training group. Like it's a gym that they bring other wrestlers in. Virginia Tech has all the wrestlers here, and they just wrestle and have great competition, and it's like trying to develop people for the Olympics.
Yeah, see, that's cool because I always see him on his social media. He always shouts out Virginia Tech wrestling. He's always like training with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. And like I said,
I mean, that might be the best athletic program at Virginia Tech right now.
Yeah. Like I said, I met Tony Gravely at the IMAX before he was a pro, and he was telling us, we saw him at the bar. He walked up to me and told me he liked my shirt. I had a Yo Romero Soldier of God shirt on with him saluting. And he told us, I watched him. He didn't have any alcohol. He didn't have any fried food or anything. Yeah, he was saying that he was, clean, and he was. He said that he was working his way up. I think he was a pro at that time, but he said he wanted to get in the UFC. And then I think a year and a half, 2 years later, he's in the UFC. So I thought that was pretty phenomenal that I got to meet him there.
Shout out Tony Gravel.
Yeah, so tune in because you always got to tune in when this local guy's on. So he'll be on next week's UFC Smith versus Spann on the prelims. Yeah, I believe the prelims start around 5. So he's one of the first fights on the prelims, so definitely tune in and check that out. Actually, we'll just talk about these last two. So Jim Miller was supposed to fight on this card, and I wanted to highlight Jim Miller because I believe him and Cowboy, he has the most
wins.
Been
doing it a long time.
Does he have the most wins in the UFC? Wasn't it like him, Damian Maia, Cowboy?
Cowboy might have the most finishes.
Okay.
Maybe.
So Jim Miller, he's been doing pretty good lately, man. So, but he ended up catching a tough break. He ended up catching COVID a few days ago. So they just scrapped that card and it got a replacement. But we'll just move up to the co-main. I think that's how you say it, in Cutelaba versus Devin Clark, light heavyweight matchup. Cutelaba is always a fun one to watch. He's very animated at the weigh-ins. I think sometimes he paints himself green because his nickname is the Hulk.
Yeah. I didn't recognize the name, but when I looked at the card, okay, I know that guy.
Yeah.
He's the favorite, and that's who I'm going to go with.
Yes.
After looking at their most recent records, he's beaten more impressive guys.
He has.
To be honest, I didn't even know anyone that Devin Clark has beaten. So.
Yeah, and I know Cutelaba, I like this fight for him because I feel like, him and that Magomed guy, Magomed, they had those two fights kind of back to back because I don't know if you remember, Cutelaba was joking around, acting like he was rocked to try to bait him in, and the ref called it because the ref actually thought he was rocked.
Yeah.
And then the second fight with him, he got knocked out against the Magomed guy. So I feel like that part kind of was like a little draining on his career because let's see. Yeah, that span was October 24th, 2020, and then he fought him again February 29th, 2020. So that dude kind of took up a large part of that 2020 year with him. And, he had a draw with Dustin Jacoby last time. So, I like this fight for him with Devin Clark. That'll be a fun one.
Nice bounce back one.
Yeah. Now, breaking it down to the main event, Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. Anthony Smith, we saw him have a tough go, like some guys we've seen when you face John Jones. The kind of the re-up after that, you don't really.
And he kind of had a small schneid after, kind of slide, but he's on a 3-fight win streak, right? Yeah,
so he beat Jimmy Crute. He beat Devin Clark, and he's getting a 2-fight win streak. His last loss was against Alexander Rayek, who is at the top of that division pretty much. Alexander Rayek's been making a great run here. So, this is a big fight for Anthony Smith to get back on track. Ryan Spann, I believe he's on a 2-fight win streak as well. I think his last loss was against, what's my guy with the mohawk, Johnny Walker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened to him? What's he doing?
So he's fighting Johnny Walker. I seen it the other day. He's
I forgot about
fighting somebody. He's fighting somebody big next.
Really?
Santos. He is fighting Thiago Santos October 2nd.
I'll have to watch that one.
So yeah, that's going to be one to watch. But Anthony Smith, this is a big fight for both of these guys at this division. They both need this win. Anthony Smith was on a tear.
Yeah,
that's how he got that fight with John Jones.
He was elite there for a minute.
Yeah.
But I think he's bouncing back. He's strung a couple in a row here. I'm going with Smith on this one.
Yeah.
I know it's boring. I took the two favorites, but that's what I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Smith as well.
Yeah.
This is a good fight. I think it works out for him. He's had some tough fights. I think he fought Jones, then he fought Teixeira, Alexander Rayek.
I was looking at their stats on the ESPN app, and Smith had a higher significant strike rate, career wise, and he's fought way tougher dudes. So,
yeah, that's true.
Statistics.
That's how you gotta look at it. You can just do that MMA math, man. That always works out,
It's always.
But Ethan, I want to thank you for doing the podcast today, man.
Anytime.
I'm glad we got it worked out.
Yeah.
I feel confident that the audio went through this time.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on today, brother. Remember, guys, like and subscribe to the Fight Bros podcast, and we thank you for listening always. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.